Welcome back to the Law Show. I'm attorney Brian Dailey, broadcasting live from high atop the Law Show studios in the Windy City, Chicago, answering all your legal questions at 855-529-7469. That's 855-LAW SHOW. We have offices in Chicago, Illinois at 30 North LaSalle, Suite 3200, and also on in Detroit at 28,000 Woodward, Royal Oak, Suite 201. And soon we'll have offices all over the country in all 50 states and radio shows all across the country, eventually in the world, and pretty soon the astronauts will be able to hear us answering legal questions about property rights in space. I'm not joking with you. I usually get what I want because I work very hard, and I was taught a great work ethic, and nothing will stop me that is of the earth. Anyway, my name is Brian Dailey. I'm broadcasting live from high atop the Law Show studios. We're answering all your legal questions. I want to make a couple of announcements here. If you don't have time to call the show, you can always text your questions with the keyword Law Show to 46786. You can go to the Android market and I think also the Apple market, and you can download our very own app. It's the Law Show app. Look for it. If you have trouble getting it, call us and we'll help you out with that. We've got a high-tech department that will help people get through those issues. It's the Law Show app. We'd like you to go to Facebook and like us. It's facebook.com/The Law Show. Click like, and you'll be able to see everything that we're doing. We're constantly trying to help people understand the law, and not only understand the law, but understand how they can utilize the law to reach their own legal goals. We'd like you to go to Twitter. Follow us at The Law Show and tell us what's on your mind. And we are tweeting constantly to make sure people are up to date on what's going on in the law all across the country. And finally, you can tune in to the web, go to thelawshow.com. If it's during the show, you can watch us live answering legal questions. If you're not coming during the show, then you can go to our very vast library of approximately 10 years worth of local broadcasts answering legal questions on news talk, on our radio shows from thelawshow.com. If you have a question, you can call us 24 hours a day at 855-529-7469. I mentioned that we were going to be joining, or that we were going to have Debra Crane join us this morning. She is our associate in Chicago leading the Family Law and Divorce Department. And there's no difference today. Here she is today. She's licensed in Michigan and Illinois. She's practicing both in Michigan and primarily in Illinois because that's where we really want to sort of focus our attention on the family law areas. We have Matt Kachik, who heads up the Michigan department. But Debra Crane's been practicing for many, many, many years, and she knows a lot about divorce and family law. And the thing about Debra is that she always has in her mind not only obtaining her client's goals, but also obtaining her client's goals and maintaining the integrity of the family to the extent possible by protecting the children from all of this machination. Debra Crane, welcome to the Law Show.
Thank you, Brian. Nice to be here.
Well, thanks for coming. Tell us a little bit about your practice, and I sort of tried to sum it up a little bit, but I'm not always necessarily the greatest with words. So if I missed anything, now's your chance to tell our listeners what you do and what you want to do and the kind of clients that you're looking for.
Okay, Brian, we're busy. I do predominantly divorce, a lot of custody, parenting time issues, child support, property division, grandparents' right, college tuition, everything with the family, really.
Now, you have sort of a subspecialty of working with very high net worth individuals when there are issues in relation to a tremendous amount of property and money and cash and distribution of that. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do, Brian. It's very, very important to protect your interest, your financial interest, both in the high asset and even in the, the rest of us, the regular world. Everything needs to be protected today. People need to come in and talk to their lawyer as soon as the thought goes through their mind that their marriage may be in trouble. They're not obligated. It's free to talk to me or another lawyer, but you need to take a look at things right away.
So I was going to ask you, what's usually more difficult to resolve? Divorces where there is a tremendous amount of debt and not enough money to pay it, or divorces where there's no debt and just tons and tons of money? Or are they the same?
Boy, they both have their problems for the people. And like you said, we need to maintain the integrity of the family. These people, if they have kids, they still are the parents and they still are a family, even though they're divorced. So you need to protect the assets if you have them so you don't lose them. That's difficult. But also with all the debts, we've got to kind of wheel and deal and get them taken care of, and so that people can be free to get on their way and raise their families.
Now, one of the things that I run across, because I do a lot of legal malpractice work, I sue lawyers for making mistakes. And I'm happy to say that I'm not real busy with that, because especially in Chicago, we have a great bar and probably one of the best benches in the entire country, maybe the world. So I'm not real busy with that kind of thing. But one of the typical questions that comes up with divorced individuals is take a home, right? So somebody has a home and it's owned jointly, and one of the spouses decides to take the home, and so the other spouse quit claim deeds, but she's or he is still on the note, and the one that got the house and has it in his own name or her own name won't refinance it or can't refinance it. What do you do? Because now the person that gave up the home can't go get a new home because she can't or he can't get financing. How do you handle that?
You know, Brian, I'm surprised at the number of times that happens and the calls I get trying to fix it after the fact. Absolutely, in every divorce, I would never let my client quit claim his interest away and still remain on the mortgage. As you said, they are responsible for it. It affects their credit. They can't get another house. They can't move on. It's a disaster. You must get your name off the mortgage and the house if that's what you're doing.
You know, I've got one more question for you. Maybe you can
Sure.
tell us a little bit, because I get an awful lot of calls for this kind of thing too, about PPOs. What's a PPO?
Personal protection order. And you know, Brian, people sometimes use that inappropriately. It's scandalous. It's it's useful if there's violence in the home and you literally need the protection from someone hurting you, then we need to have them. But what people don't realize, they try to use that as a ploy to maybe get custody or kids or some nonsense, and they don't realize that's a criminal record. So that's on your record for years if that's out there.
So let me just understand this. What you're saying is that sometimes in order to get an advantage in relation to custody, one spouse will trick another spouse into letting them have the kids for a temporary period of time, and then they run off to a lawyer, and the lawyer gets a PPO based upon false accusations of abuse and neglect and things like that. And then the other parent, who's unawares, can't see the kids until that thing gets set aside.
Oh, it's terrible. That can happen. It doesn't happen that often because both parents have to raise those kids. So the judge looks at this behavior, and it's appalling. It's appalling. They see through it. They see this stuff every day, all day long. But you're right. It can happen. And then, it's on your record. The PPO is on your record, so if you go to get a job, they see it, even if it's dismissed. And that can affect child support, so you got to be really careful with that thing. The courts are, they're pretty careful about that.
So when somebody comes into our office and they say, hey, listen, I want you to get a PPO, we're really careful. We don't run out and do that unless it's really, really necessary, and we can see that there's a record of police reports and abuse and doctor's appointments and black eyes and things like that. Then it may be appropriate, but in the case recently that we handled, it really wasn't appropriate, was it? And the court set it aside.
That's right. That's right. And of course, we will protect anyone who needs it from physical abuse. You're not going to get a PPO for emotional abuse, but I'll tell you, especially today, we're seeing a lot of people with mental or emotional abuse. That's just as bad. But we will protect that client if they need it, but not frivolously.
Sometimes I think the emotional abuse is worse because the judges can't see that, and so they have to go, he said, she said, whereas a black eye you can see. Right? So
You're
a judge
right.
can see a black eye or a picture of a black eye. They can say, you know what? Quit hitting your ex-husband. Stop it right now. And if they don't, then they can take the kids away until things get calmed down, right?
Absolutely. But you're right. The emotional and mental abuse, especially the last few years, it seems to be even worse. But it's really terrible for the kids, the spouse. It's really terrible. And usually they'll order psychological evaluations to try to get to the bottom of it. But
if anybody out there is listening and they need advice in relation to a divorce, PPO, child support, custody, alimony, spousal support, anything that happens to do with the family, give us a call anytime you want at 855-LAW-SHOW. We'll transfer you down to speak with Debra Crane, and she's available. And as with all other Daily lawyers, and you know what? I keep losing count because we keep growing. We don't charge for the initial consultation, so all you got to do is call 855-LAW-SHOW, which is the exact number you want to call right now. If you have a legal question on the air, remember, when you're calling and you ask your question on the air, you're not going to be helping just yourself. You're going to help all of the many, many, many people who are listening to the most powerful radio station in Chicago, Illinois, WLS. That's 89 WLS. So you'll be helping out the public just as much as we are, and probably more, because you're sharing of your experience in this context, and people can hear and compare to their own experience and say, hey, you know what, I had that happen to me, or, this kind of thing's going on right now. I better check this out. So if you have a call, you had a question, call us at 855-LAW-SHOW. Right now, we're going to go to the phones right now on a slightly off topic. We're going to talk to Ed. Ed, you're on the Law Show.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Brian. My question is, my wife was rear-ended and totaled her car out. And what is the time limit that I have in case I want to seek legal advice or legal attorney?
Yeah, now let me ask a couple of questions.
Sure.
Was the accident in Illinois?
No, it was in Indiana.
Okay, in Indiana, everybody's got a different statute of limitations. I think Indiana is a 2-year statute of limitations, but I can check that out pretty quickly. Tell me a little bit about the accident. What happened exactly?
Well, she was at a stop at a red light on Route 30 in Broadway, and when the light turned green, she proceeded to cross the intersection, and right in the center of the intersection, she was rear-ended by a big SUV. And on the police report, the gentleman said that he was momentarily not paying attention, and it was like too late to hit his brakes, and damaged the whole rear end of her car. And unfortunately, she doesn't have serious injuries, but she does have injuries.
Well, I'm glad she did.
Since then, I've received like maybe 7 or 8 brochures from attorneys in Indianapolis.
Yeah, you know what that's called? That's called solicitation, and it's not proper.
Solicitation, right?
Yeah. You got solicited.
Yeah, I got a.
You got solicited. Okay, it's not unusual.
Yes, I did.
It's not unusual. It happens in every single state that we have offices. It happens in every single state in the country. It's not right, because you know what? People should be left to themselves for healing from their injuries and that sort of thing. And people just don't do it. So the statute of limitations in Indiana, I believe, is 2 years. But I'd like to take a little bit closer look at that. It's 2 years for a personal injury accident. And so what I was going to ask you is, was the other vehicle insured, do you know?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah. And so that's important. Now, do you have on your insurance policy something called uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage?
Yes, I do.
You do. In general, for our listeners, when you get hit by a vehicle that doesn't have insurance, and in this case, Ed's wife was hit by a vehicle that does have insurance, it sounds like it's probably fairly high insurance because it's a nice car, an SUV. If there's not enough insurance, then you can make a claim on your own insurance company for the remainder of dollars that you need to compensate you for your medical or your wage loss. That's called underinsured motorist coverage. But then there's something called uninsured motorist coverage, and the uninsured motorist coverage covers you when you get hit by somebody who doesn't have insurance. And so luckily, Ed's wife, I'm not going to say it's lucky she was hit, but she was, if you're going to get hit, you want to get hit by somebody that has a car accident or has good insurance. Ed, I want you to hold on. We're going to talk to you a little bit off the air. We're going to continue to answer all your legal questions at 855-LAW-SHOW. That's 855-529-7469. When we come back from these few short messages, I'm Brian Dailey. I'm broadcasting live from high atop the Law Show studios in the Windy City, Chicago. It's the Law Show, answering your legal questions. If you want to watch me, tune to thelawshow.com. Click on the Watch Live video, and you'll see yours truly answering legal questions. If you have a family law question about divorce or family law, child support, child custody, whatever it is, call us right now at 855-529-7469. That's 855-LAW-SHOW. Debra Crane will answer those questions. She'll be with me all hour and even extending after we go off the air on 89 WLS. We'll be right back.